inspections, appraisals, and final walkthroughs in today's video. So join me as I educate you on those 3 critical points in a contract process in today's video. First, inspections. Clearly, if you're buying a resale home, it is really recommended, and we're not in the crazed market where people were waiving inspections. So in a normal market, we never recommend it. And even during that crazy period, I really never recommended it. I think I had a couple that were waived, but for the most part, I always advise that they get them. And I also advise people to get them for new construction properties. I've purchased a couple of new construction properties in my life, and I did get independent inspections done. And I tell you what, they can find little things that you and me as non-general contractors would notice, and I tell you, it's really beneficial for the amount that you pay and the amount that they could find and save you in the long run. Like, for example, for new construction, right? Unfortunately, I feel like in a general sense, the quality of new builds has gone down over the years. I don't know what it is with the supply chain stuff and all that's going on in the world right now, or what the reason is. But I do feel like the quality's gone down, and when you do close, it is so hard to get people back into the house. I feel like once everybody's paid, once people have the keys, it is a struggle bus to get the builder back in, or their vendors, or whatever. So as much as you can do in advance of the closing, I would really highly recommend, and I think it's definitely well worth the money. Here's another example. On the rental property that I bought, I did go and spend a good amount on the best quality that I think inspector that I could find, and he brought in a whole team. So he brought in a roofer, an AC person. So these are all individual people in their respective fields. Pool person, termite. So the house is like crawling with people. And you're gonna spend a little bit more money, but in the case of my inspector, he has all these people coming, right? So there's individual reports for those special units of the house. Like, you have a licensed roofer coming to tell you like what really is the true, lifespan of this roof. What would it cost to repair or replace? So along with the inspection reports, we get estimates, which in a contract period, time is of the essence, and so time keeps ticking whether we like it or not, and so it's really critical to do as much as we can during that first, let's say, 7 to 10 day inspection period as we possibly can. And so I like to work really efficiently. And I also don't want to intrude on the homeowners, especially if they're living there, to come in and out. There is some of that to an extent sometimes, because we can't avoid schedulings in some cases. But to work efficiently, hire an inspector who can bring in a team like that, not just a team that's going to provide a breakdown of recommended repairs, or from missing shingles to maybe the pool's leaking, maybe some things need further evaluation. And that's another reason why, even if I bring a team out like that, we sometimes need to bring out other inspectors like electricians or whatever to further evaluate the property and those particular items. So we might not have to have a second visit, unfortunately. But again, I personally try to be as efficient as I possibly can for all sides, right? For myself, the other agent, my buyer or seller, and the other side, whether it's the buyer or seller. And so let's say for example, if you had to bring in the electrician, right, that could take a few extra days. So we really want to get stuff lined up right away, expeditiously. Again, time is ticking, time is of the essence. I can't stress that enough. And again, still with new construction, I found several mistakes that my GC found, my inspector found, during that process, and I was really grateful. And listen, even if they don't find much of anything, it's peace of mind, right? I think it's worth the investment. Like if they found something major like Chinese drywall, which I haven't seen, knock on wood, in quite some time, right when that was popular, but when that was more abundantly around. But so if they did find something major, that could be corrected, or you could delay the closing for that reason. So inspections are really a critical point in the contract period, the purchasing and selling process, depending on what side you're on. But yeah, I do recommend being as efficient as possible in that process. and having the right vendors in place really helps make that a more pleasant experience for all sides. Secondly, appraisals. Yes, sometimes we have appraisals, sometimes people have to finance. So I personally think it's important that the listing agent and or buyer's agent attend appraisals. Primarily it's the listing agent, if at all. And the reason I like to attend the appraisals is because I like to prepare a file for the appraiser. Sometimes there's actually 2 appraisals, especially when it comes to some higher end properties. So appraisals can sometimes be a necessary evil. And again, I think if anything, this would reiterate to our sellers that pricing is really, really critically important in a shifting market going toward a buyer's market. We have to be mindful that appraisals might come into play here. So again, I like to be very hands-on because I want to control as much of the situation for my seller as I possibly can, and emphasize the value of the home and provide the appraiser with things that are not readily visible, or easily found in the MLS write-up. So I think my being there to help answer questions rapid fire for the appraiser can only help our clients, and it's just one more thing that we offer in terms of services happily to our clients. Lastly, final walkthroughs. A final walkthrough is the last and final step, hopefully, in the purchasing process. So the purpose of a final walkthrough is to make sure that all of the things that you agreed to in the contract process and all of the paperwork conveys with the sale and it hasn't been changed. Lots of times we negotiate furniture in a transaction. Maybe there are things that are excluded that the buyer specifically absolutely does not want in the sale or left on the property. Maybe the home is a disaster and they just wanted everything out, and that was explicit in the terms of the contract. And also, like, what if the seller swapped out the appliances? Like, what if they were just like the most generic low-end appliances when you thought you were getting high-end appliances as depicted in the MLS and as depicted during your trips or viewings to the property? And of course, checking repairs that were potentially negotiated, right? Making sure the house is standing at a bare minimum. So I can't express to you how important that final walkthrough process is. It's usually a very simple process, making sure washer and dryers convey that are the same washer and dryers that you saw. I mean, just little things to make sure that the buyer sees the property as it was negotiated and the seller leaves it in good working order condition and all of those good things. And so really an important step in the process, a final step in that process other than signing and sending in the money. So inspections, appraisals, and final walkthroughs, 3 very important steps in the process. There's about a million other things in between, from start of a listing to going through a contract period and ending a contract successfully for no matter what side you're on, the buy side or the sell side. But 3 really important steps, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I've heard horror stories. I've heard stuff like, they thought that the pool was leaking and then they had inspectors say that it wasn't, and then post-closing it turns out the pool is leaking. And this is also where disclosure is really, really important. I always tell sellers, like, I would over disclose. Like, if it's on your mind, definitely over disclose it. That way you're covered. It's like CYA, and then that way the buyer can't come back and say, well, you didn't tell me, now this is a problem, and I could potentially sue you. So disclosures and all that's very, very important as well, and it kind of all commingles together. So if you have any questions, guys, about the selling process, the purchasing process, I'm here as a resource for you. Of course, I want your business and your referrals. That means everything to me. I just got one referral yesterday that was incredible, and it was just a cool moment, and thankful for those very much so. And I hope that this channel is educational and entertaining. I mean, I try to have fun with what I do. I always tell people I'm not doing a brain surgery over here, but we are dealing with a lot of money that people have, and it's usually the biggest transaction typically of a lifetime, which is the real estate transaction. So we have fun, but I obviously take it seriously, and we want to have fun in that process too. So call me, text me, email me, 941 544-7690. My email is shaylatwit@gmail.com. I do work a really wide area from Manatee, Sarasota, and all the way down to Charlotte counties. I love all things waterfront, but I work the entire mainland of Sarasota, Lakewood Ranch, and on down to Englewood as well. So I want nothing more than to hear from you. And thanks for tuning in.